Congress has appropriated roughly $175 billion so far to help hospitals and other healthcare providers weather the consequences of this COVID pandemic. But some hospitals are struggling to keep up, and racial disparities in the American healthcare system are magnifying the problem. William Brangham is back with our latest conversation he recorded earlier from the front lines of this crisis.
We go now to the city of Chicago, a city that's dealing with its own rising outbreak. And one small hospital on the city's south side, Roseland Community Hospital, and how it is struggling to keep up. The front page story in the Chicago Tribune recently said it all: outgunned, outmanned, and underfunded. I'm joined now by Roseland's president and CEO, Tim Egan, and by the manager of its emergency room, Lynette Houston. Thank you both very much for being here. Tim Egan, to you first. For those of us who can't see inside your hospital and see what you all see every single day, can you just give us a picture of what it's like in there now?
Well, our emergency department has been overrun. We have 19 bays in our ED, and right now you can find gurneys at the nurses station, patients being treated right in the middle of the hallways. The demand for our service has been overwhelming, but we've been meeting that demand. And it's why we say it's a bright hope during dark chaos. We're giving people a chance to recover from this disease. We're giving the best treatment possible, and I just can't commend our staff enough. Folks like Lynette, our doctors, our EVS, everyone is stepping to the front lines and delivering the care that people need.
And Tim, staying with you for a second, can you just give us a sense of who your patient population is?
Well, the New Roseland Hospital is on the far south side of the city of Chicago. We're the last hospital within the city limits on the far south side. We're in the greater Roseland community, and 96% of our residents are African American, and over 87% of our patients are Medicaid patients.
And Lynette, the same question to you as I asked Tim. We can't see inside your emergency room or your ICU. Can you give us a snapshot of what it's like, the kinds of patients that you're seeing there?
The kind of patients that we're seeing here is patients who coming in suspecting that they've been infected by the virus. We have a 19-bed ER where we have other rooms where we can improvise and put those patients there, which would come up to like 22 beds. But we're also using beds around the nurses station, where we could put at least 8 beds around the nurses station. These people are coming in and they're sick. They're sick. I know the news say stay home and try to take care of yourself at home, but these are people who use the emergency room as their primary physician, because a lot of people in this area don't have their own primary. So the emergency room is their primary doctor, where they come here for services.
We hear, Tim, a lot of these, that Congress is passing billions of dollars out to the states and to businesses to try to keep them afloat. Are you getting help from the state to help offset some of these costs that you're incurring?
So we've seen some federal aid that came from the Payroll Protection Program, but we're seeking many more grants. We need more support. We've tested 10,000 folks who've come down to our hospital for COVID-19 testing. You know, the Roseland community is 7% of the population of the city of Chicago, and right now we're 16% of the COVID-19 deaths. That showcases the disparity in the funding of healthcare that has happened over decades in the city of Chicago. While I've seen Medicaid dollars flood out to resources in the suburbs, to multi-billion-dollar corporations, hospitals like Roseland have been underfunded. You know, when I said on the front page of Chicago Tribune, we were outgunned, outmanned, and underfunded, I meant it. We don't have the resources. We don't have a reserve of funding that we can use to buy new equipment and hire more staff. And that's because of this woeful lack of funding that we've received over many, many years.
Lynette Houston, Tim is describing a situation that sounds like a terrible circumstance for the staff that has to work in and day out. I mean, obviously, the stress of this kind of work in a contagious environment where people are worried, obviously, about themselves getting infected, and yet it sounds like you're having to work incredibly long hours just to meet this demand. How is everybody holding up?
My staff is really tremendous. I take my hat off to them because it's really, it can be sometimes overwhelming, but sometimes we go into chats where we try to laugh. We try to, not look at the other side of it, which is the dark side, because sometimes we do lose people. The numbers of the deaths is rising, and it has happened here also, and those families cannot be with their loved ones. So it doesn't make our day easy, but we have to keep moving forward. We have to keep fighting. And my nurses are really tremendous. The ICU nurses are really tremendous.
It certainly sounds like it. Lynette, I understand you haven't had a chance to see as much of your family personally as you would like to.
I haven't. I don't. My daughter doesn't live here, but I normally go see them every weekend. I don't go because I don't want to go around them right now.
Because you're worried about infection?
Yes, but it's not only me, it's my whole staff. I have one employee that lives in the garage now. I have one employee moved out of her house because she didn't want to be around her mom who is sick, who has a condition where it's compromised, so she don't want to be. So it's not only me, it's the sacrifice that we make, and it's a whole group effort. So no, we haven't seen our families.
Tim Egan, you said that you have been complaining about the underfunding of hospitals like yours for years, even before the pandemic. Do you think that this crisis will actually be the thing that finally wakes people up to the importance of community hospitals, to rural hospitals, to small health centers like yours?
I'm praying to God that it is. The number of deaths in the African American community due to COVID-19 is a call for hope, a desperate call for hope, that we finally get the decision makers to realize that communities like Roseland deserve an investment in the healthcare services. These folks are dying because they have comorbidities. Folks are dying because they have quadmorbidities. That's because we don't have the ability to treat folks when they, at their earliest onset of diseases like asthma, COPD, heart disease, obesity. We need funding for programs, for primary care programs, for outreach to these folks to get them on a path of wellness and overall health. And without funding that is absolutely available, we won't be able to do that. And you'll just see more disparity in the deaths in the African American community without that desperately needed funding.
Tim Egan and Lynette Houston of Roseland Hospital on the south side of Chicago, thank you both very, very much for talking with us, and good luck with all of your work out there.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And one other note, this is National Nurses Week. We want to give a special thanks to Lynette Houston for speaking with us, and a shout out to all the nurses working on the front lines of hospitals, clinics, and healthcare providers around the country. Thank you. More than 100 nurses in the U.S. have died since the pandemic began. That's according to National Nurses United, the largest union of registered nurses in the country.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. Again, we are focused on the coronavirus, the different variants that are going on across the nation, and the controversy over the vaccine, whether you should take it, whether you shouldn't, whether you should wear a mask, and whether you shouldn't. Well, the numbers bear out. Many are dying. So take precautions, folks. This morning, we're going to talk The Great Gatsby. F. Scott Fitzgerald's third book stands as the supreme achievement of his career. The novel of the jazz age has been acclaimed by generations of readers. The story is of the fabulously wealthy Jay Gatsby and his new love for the beautiful Daisy Buchanan. She's of lavish parties on Long Island, and at times when gin was the national drink and sex was the national obsession. It is an exquisitely crafted tale of America in the 1920s. Well, how about adding a little soul and a touch of hip hop to The Great Gatsby? That's what our guests this morning have done. They call him Nova Blessed, and he's turned The Great Gatsby into the Black Gatsby. Recording artist, producer, and songwriter Marc Jenkins, aka Nova Blessed, and his fictional muse Madysin star in The Great Gatsby. We're going to talk about that this morning. First, of course, let us bring on the president and CEO of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis Jr. Good morning, Dr. Chavis.
Good morning, Stacey. How are you? I'm live at the NMPA television studio. Glad to be on this Monday morning, but let it be known, I won't be on for the whole program, but I'm going to stay as long as I can.
Well, it's always good to have you, Dr. Chavis. And Dr. Chavis, we start this morning, you and I had an exclusive conversation yesterday with the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who is recovering with his wife in a Chicago hospital. They have tested positive for the COVID-19. Dr. Chavis, I know you and Jesse Jackson go way, way back to the civil rights movement. You guys have remained best of friends for decades. Talk to us about the conversation. I'll let you talk to our audience about the conversation we had with the Reverend Jackson yesterday.
Well, I'm pleased to report to our viewers this morning that the Reverend Jesse Jackson, inside of a Chicago hospital, did speak to us. His voice was strong, his mind was strong, and I was kind of, saying, hey, man, you're in the hospital, but you're still fighting for freedom, justice, and equality. He was talking about the importance of voting rights, not to let our voting rights be taken away. So we should keep Reverend Jackson, his wife, Jacqueline Jackson, and the Jackson family all in our prayers as they struggle with COVID. But I want to just report that Reverend Jackson is doing relatively well. His wife is having some health challenges, and that's what I think made them susceptible to the COVID. But the thing is, they're a strong family. They're together, and we extend our prayers. Now, the thing is, I want to just say, Stacey, as you and I talked to Reverend Jackson yesterday from the hospital, he just re-emphasized from his hospital bed that not to let anyone take our voting rights away. He's very concerned that everybody's a lot of issues in Washington, from Afghanistan to the infrastructure to all the other issues. And he says he wants to make sure that voting rights doesn't get lost in the mix. So on his behalf, I just want to stress what he said yesterday was we should keep our eyes on the prize, and the prize is full voting rights, particularly for Black Americans.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, one of the things I noted you and I spoke about after the call, he did sound very strong. His voice, Reverend Jackson had been fighting Parkinson's disease as well, but it hasn't stopped him from his, as you mentioned, his fight for voting rights and other civil rights. So we got to hear a lot of that yesterday. Very, very strong Jesse Jackson that we spoke to yesterday.
Absolutely. We're very pleased that he gave that exclusive to the Black press of America from his hospital bed.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Dr. Chavis, Tropical Storm Henry is flooding the northeast of the United States. We see flooding everywhere. New Jersey, New York, New England states are really getting battered. We're asking people just to stay safe as Henry continues to touch down. It's no longer of hurricane strength, but it is still pretty dangerous. A lot of flood watches. In fact, the National Weather Service issued flood watches for more than 35 million people, including New York, Philadelphia, Hartford, Providence, and Albany. There's also a level 3 of 4 risk for excessive rainfall in the region. So we want to be very, very careful as we travel this morning and throughout this week, Dr. Chavis.
Absolutely. We have to stay healthy from the COVID pandemic. We have to stay healthy from climate change, from the weather, these severe weather patterns that we're now having to endure. It's all part of climate change.
Absolutely. Dr. Chavis, in sports, here's a really good story for you. J.R. Smith, the NBA champion from the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Los Angeles Lakers, well, he's gone back to school, North Carolina A&T, and guess what he's doing? He's playing golf. Yep, he wants to play on the golf team there. I spoke with golf officials at the PGA Tour. They say that this guy is a natural-born pro, that he can really play the game of golf. A lot of his colleagues like Chris Paul, Charles Barkley, they are very surprised at just how good J.R. Smith is. So we saw his greatness on the hardwood, Dr. Chavis. Now he's hitting the links and promises to see a lot of greatness from J.R. Smith on the golf course. He's going to North Carolina A&T, and he says, I'm going to do it.
Well, great. And he's going to a great HBCU, North Carolina A&T. And as we were mentioning about Reverend Jesse Jackson earlier, Reverend Jesse Jackson was the quarterback at AT&T, at North Carolina A&T back in the early 1960s. So it's a great HBCU, and we wish our brother all of the success now in the PGA.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the National Newspaper Publishers Association has a memorandum of understanding with the PGA Tour and the PGA of America as we continue to bring Black America the game of golf. So we look forward to doing some more on that.
Exactly. So, Stacey, I'm going to have to go. I'm getting ready to interview Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, civil rights activist from Michigan, a member of the Congress of the United States. So I'm going to sign off. We're doing simultaneous programs this morning. But
Yes,
best wishes to you, and thank you for giving us an opportunity to be on every morning on Let It Be Known. Thank you, and Norman Rich.
Thank you, Dr. Chavis. And they call him Nova Blessed, and he's turned the Great Gatsby into the Black Gatsby. Let us bring on recording artist, producer, and songwriter Nova Blessed. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How you doing, Stacey?
Doing well. So, the Black Gatsby, tell us all about it.
Black Gatsby. All right. So, the project's official name is The Great Gatsby, but I myself starring in it makes it The Black Gatsby. Man, I could say that The Great Gatsby was one of my favorite stories. I actually never read the book from start to finish. In high school, we got assigned to read the book. I couldn't get with the writing. I remember looking at the book and closing it and putting it down and just saying, you know what? I'm not reading this, so whatever grade I get is just what's going to happen. We fast forward 10, 15 years later, he had the great movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. Was really brought just the essence of the movie, just really loved the story. And then earlier this year, something just hit me. I can't say that I've been planning on doing this. It was just like, create this project and see where it goes. And I did. I worked very hard, very effortlessly. When I say effortless, tons of effort, to make it happen. But as things have been growing, it's been seeming more effortlessly than normal.
Yeah, and so it's a bit of a change for you, isn't it? Because you do a lot of hip hop, obviously, and this is not necessarily hip hop, although it sounds like it has some elements to it. Tell us about the difference. What went into The Great Gatsby that perhaps didn't, that you needed to put into this, that you may not have put into your hip hop projects and other R&B type projects?
Mm-hmm. So The Great Gatsby for me is, it's not really like, it is part of my collection, part of my discography, but it's a special project for me. When I typically make music, I just make music, whatever from life experiences or from the heart, and, whatever the production is, whatever the beats or the music, it speaks to me, then I'll go ahead and write it, write out, record something. But for this project, I was just called to do something different. And I was called to just push the edges of entertainment, and especially within my field of hip hop, which is so saturated right now. With how easy it is to make music. I mean, it's tons of artists. And being an engineer out in Vegas, I see it all the time.
Right.
Recording people, it's just putting out. And I was really blessed to be called to do something of this magnitude, where I could take this story that was actually up until this year was copyrighted. So this year was the first year that it went up for public domain, which gave me the opportunity to not only create my own rendition of the story, but to actually use the name without looking at any lawsuits or legal action. So with that information, I just took it and I created it to the best of my ability, which I really did. I executively produced the project, which means that, I found the beat maker, the person that made the beat. I sat down with them, created the beats in the process. Went out and found the other artist, Madysin, who plays Daisy in the project. I vocally produced her through it. We co-wrote. She wrote some stuff. I wrote some stuff. And then mixed, engineered, and mastered, and then released, and then did all the other stuff behind it. It's just my little baby.
One of our viewers on Facebook says it sounds very interesting. I'm looking forward to checking it out. Maybe one day you may be inspired to try the book again.
Maybe. That'd be great. I hope you enjoy it.
Well, listen, let's take a listen to it's a full album. And there's a performance that's coming up in a couple of days, but let's take a listen to one of the songs from the Great Gatsby, your Great Gatsby, Nova Blessings, Great Gatsby. Take a listen.
There is just something I need you to know, pushing me, pulling me, taking control. Love like this is too good to be true. Fear keeps me from saying I love you. All this pressure, it's taking its toll. Not here for riches and diamonds and gold. How could I say it? How could I be so bold? What if I say it and your heart turns stone?
What could I do to show you that, baby, you already got me? I was in the trenches, I beat the devil down. He couldn't stop me. So why would I let your heart mourn me? And then let your brain block me? I mean, come on, baby, stop it. You know my heart is your locket.
So it took a lot. I'm sure, like you said, you waited for it to become go into the public domain to take that name. But tell us about that song right there. We hear your vocals come in with Madysin. How did you two gel? How did this really work out?
So to take it back to the beginning, I met Madysin. I think maybe this all happened so fast, like just the way in the line. I met Madysin maybe in like November, December. I knew her through a common person that we work with at the studio. And I liked her sound. She just had like a really good sound, but she was very new to music. And I've had a bit of experience. So when I think it was the last week of December when I saw the article that the Great Gatsby was going up for public domain January 1st, 2021, and it all just came. It was like she's the person. I could be Gatsby. I could redo the story. And then from that, so that song right there was actually number 6 out of 7 songs where we broke down the story of Great Gatsby into 7 parts. Like the initial part where it's like Gatsby's in town, but Daisy's with this guy, and you could tell she loves him, but then it kind of had that flashback that she was in love with Gatsby. And then it goes into Daisy's song, which is really a moment where Daisy expresses her love for Gatsby. It's a solo song. And then third one, I actually do like a character change, which I'm very excited for the show, where I'm not Gatsby, but I'm actually Tom Buchanan. And in that part, Daisy and Tom have a breakup song. It's a breakup song, which is like one of my favorites. And then we have The Meeting, which is song 4, where Daisy and Gatsby meet for the first time. Unlike the book and the other movies previous, where the cousin kind of has this this interlude to bring them together and set up this blind date. In this sequence, in the story, in the future of the plays or whatever that I do, it'll roll out. But she comes to one of his parties, they meet, they have a great time. And then Gatsby's song is that romantic, like, I'll take care of you, I'll give you everything you need. This is amazing. And then it comes to this song, which is my favorite, absolutely favorite song, Hard to Say I Love You. And this song is that moment in a relationship, especially early on, where 2 people love each other and they know it, but neither one of them saying it, and then there becomes this little friction of like, well, why aren't you saying it? Well, why aren't you saying it? And then they can kind of pull apart until they talk about it, but it really doesn't make sense. Like, you're not really angry about something, it's like, right. I love you and you love me, but then sometimes women could give an attitude or men could give an attitude, and this is what that song was just, it was hard for Daisy to say I love you, her being married to Tom and going through this, but Gatsby's like, yo, I've done everything for you, like, what more can I do to tell you that I love you? And that's really what that song is. Every word of it, and then it finishes with "Souls in Paradise," which, unlike the like I said, the novel and the previous movies where Tom Buchanan kills Gatsby in the end, we don't kill Gatsby. This is a happily ever after story, and "Souls in Paradise" is really a rendition of like wedded vows for me.
Wow. So Gregory Muhammad writes in that it's beautiful and supreme creativity. And Cheryl Smith says it's interesting. And someone else, a Facebook user, it says, "You go, man."
Okay, I'll take it. Thank you.
That's just some of the early reviews. And you mentioned that it as you've stated already, it's not going to necessarily follow exactly what the book has, right? So when you thought of that, did you set out to make it a little different from the book, or did it just evolve?
I did. I set out early on when we crafted like how it would be done, how many songs, what the songs would be about. It wasn't like I said, making a normal album. Typically, you just make music. You know, you make it and then you take from that collection, you'll put something together. If it matches the same energy or the same vibe or the same subject matter, then you can put it together and you can put it out. But for this, I mean, everything was pre-thought. The beat, how it would sound, like those beat, I picked those instruments out, picked out those sounds, those cadences. I wanted the songs to have an emotional journey through it. I wanted the words to have an impact. I wanted everything to flow. So for this, it was, every last part of it was like foreseen. And the reason that I think I have in me, which only time can tell, is, how can I best say this? So you know Otis Redding. You know
Yes.
Otis Redding, right?
Yes.
I feel that if you was to take a sample, the Otis Redding sample that Kanye West used in Otis, right? And you would present that to, let's say, the majority of the people who consume media at a high level today, right? Generation, was it X, Z, Gen Y? You know what I mean? We're looking somewhere between 15 to 35, the mass consumers of media every day, right? If you take them that Otis Redding sample, they're going to say, "Oh, that's that Kanye West song," right? They're not going to say, "Oh, that's Otis." They're just going to think that's that Kanye West song.
West. Exactly.
And then, forever going forward, as they raise, that'll kind of become the new normal. That Otis Redding sample will always be the Kanye West song. So in my mind, what if I could take this story, The Great Gatsby, and reintroduce it as this album, and then in future generations, I'm known for the great. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's the reach. That's the reach. Yeah. If we make it, then we've done something. And if not, I have a whole lot of fun trying. I mean,
that's the creative genius of Nova Blessed. Real quick, so you got coming up in a couple of days, you have a performance of The Great Gatsby. Tell us a bit about that.
So this coming up Thursday, we have The Great Gatsby live. If you're in Las Vegas, Nevada, it's going to be at the Balkan Bar and Grill off of Sahara Drive. Where we're going to do a rendition of the album live, where we'll take characters. So I'll take Jay Gatsby, she'll take Daisy Buchanan, and we'll be in front of the crowd, kind of like a dinner and a show, you know what I mean? But less scripted, less cinematic, and it's going to be very personal. But we'll still have a lot of fun and do the album for people. So I just really want people to come by and see it. And a lot of people are excited. I mean, I've been surprised the feedback that I've been getting for people who are going to come to the show. So.
And for our viewers out west, how do one get tickets to that?
Tickets. So right now, it's actually free. We were selling tickets. Originally, when I created it, we were selling tickets for like $50 and $80 for the VIP. And then the owner of the restaurant, she came to me and said, "Listen," because we had to buy out the venue first. You know what I mean? We had to put down and buy out the restaurant essentially for the night. She believed in the project so much. She believed in us so much. And she said, "Listen, we'll just pay you to do it. And you just bring the people in." So now the show is free for maybe the next few months. And then after that, I'm eventually going to charge people. But it's going to be a way bigger production, and it'll really be the way that I see it happening.
Wow. Well, it sounds like a fantastic project. We are so glad to have you this morning to talk about the Black Gatsby. And y'all gonna know from here on in, it's gonna be Nova Bless the Great Gatsby. We appreciate you, man, so much. All the best with this project. And for everyone else, make plans now to join us for the National Newspaper Publicists Association's Leadership Reception, September 16th. Join at virtuenmpa2021.com. That's September 16th, but you can sign up today at www.virtuenmpa2021.com. It's going to be an exciting evening of events, awards to Corey Bush, to Dr. James Hildreth, and others on September the 16th. Let it be known, if you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours. We'll see you tomorrow.